Hi, I'm Ben Fuda, host of PBS Wisconsin's online gardening series, Let's Grow Stuff. Welcome to this year's virtual Wisconsin Garden and Landscape Expo. I hope you'll enjoy this special educational presentation, and remember, you can leave your questions for our presenter at any time by typing them into the chat, and we'll ask them in a live Q&A at the end of the session. Also, don't forget to stick around and check out everything this virtual event has to offer. From inspiring garden tours to an interactive exhibitor mall, there's something for everyone. And thanks for joining us. Now please enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Mark Dwyer from Landscape Prescriptions by MD in Janesville, Wisconsin. And today we're going to talk about sensational seasonals. We're going to cover a wide range of plants that offer color, texture, pollinator value, and a whole lot of interest for us out in our gardens. The cover slide here, you can see a great combination of some pink zinnias with blue floss flower and some silver senecio in the back. And the commentary here is simply that this sort of color is easily achievable in our hot summers, and the wide spectrum of plants that are available for the consumer and the gardener are myriad. There'll be all sorts of wonderful potential out in our gardens this year. A great example of a lot of color offered just specifically by seasonals. If you take a look at this image, not only is it engaging in terms of color, but your eye wanders over not only the variability in flower color, but the flower architectures ranging from plumes to rounded flowers to daisies, and a lot of foliage impact. There's a lot of annuals where their primary component of interest is foliage. Many also have the combination of wonderful flowers and foliage as well. And again, none of these plants are hardy in our climate, but you'll get many months of enjoyment and color. And discussing that foliage, a great example on the right there with Rex begonia, that silver and maroon pattern, wonderful in the shade, offering illumination. And that's the primary contribution. And that's what we mean by colorful foliage. So don't underestimate the impact of foliage out in your garden. And that actually holds true with all types of plants, whether it's annuals, perennials, or woody plants. And to my earlier comment, the primary feature might be foliage, or it might supplement some beautiful flowers as well. And mixing up our textures is vital in all aspects of our gardening. Diving into some fun new plants, marigolds, Marvel 2 Gold. Now, marigolds, that was my gateway plant in becoming a gardener. My mom and I would garden at an early age, and incidentally, behind me is a quilt for my mom. I've got to give a shout out for that. But back to marigolds. They're getting bigger, they're getting larger flowers, strong stems, and the flower power of something like this extends way into late summer to early fall. So marigolds are never ubiquitous in this Marvel series, whether it's Marvel 2 Gold or Marvel 2 Orange, offering a lot of interest and extended interest in the landscape. Can't get enough of zinnias. Absolutely wonderful for pollinators. And the Profusion series has been around for many years. However, they've never approached a true red. So Profusion Red is relatively new and offers a very rich coloration. The nice thing about the Profusion series is they're very compact at 15 to 18 inches and self-cleaning, meaning you don't have to remove spent blooms. They'll continue to bloom through the heat of summer. The Profusion series in its entirety is wonderful. And this is a brand new one. This is an award-winning plant coming out next year. This Profusion Red-Yellow bicolor is just amazing. And if you look closely, the younger flowers, the newest flowers are the gold with the red center, and the older flowers age to a beautiful pink, still with that red center. In my visits to trial gardens this year, this was the plant that really spoke to me. I was just amazed by it. And the Zahara series, not too dissimilar to the Profusion series you saw earlier, meaning compact, disease-resistant, and self-cleaning. This double Zahara Yellow Improved is just a beacon of bright yellow. Not only a beacon for us visually, but the pollinators will be literally swarming to it. And developments in zinnias include certainly disease resistance, a lot of mildew resistance, and the Zesty series here is fairly compact at only knee to thigh high in that 24 to 30 inch range, and comes in a wide range of colors. And, again, for pollinators, and a great plant for children to start gardening because you get quick growth, immediate results, and they just look spectacular in our gardens. And here's Zesty Purple. I believe there's 7 colors in the series. I'll never get tired of petunias. Heat resistant, disease resistant, lots of breeding in larger scale trailing type petunias. The nice thing about this Headliner series, if you look closely into this light violet flower, you see some white specks. The speckling or star-shaped speckles on petunias is a relatively new development, and this Crystal Sky is brand new, offering a nice pastel range with a little added speckling, which is also evident on Glacier Sky. Here, a dark purple blue with a white edge, and look at the white spots. The spotting is variable from flower to flower, but does add a little more interest. Petunias, again, with their drought tolerance, do benefit from decent soils, adequate watering, and they do well in containers and bedding schemes. And there's literally hundreds out there. And bee's knees, 20 years ago, there wasn't a good yellow petunia, and they get better and better. The older varieties of yellow petunias tend to fade to a white. Bee's knees is absolutely spectacular with a dark yellow throat. And I've seen it in mass plantings. As you see here, look at it used as a ground cover. Spectacular and very heat tolerant. And this Itsy magenta, so you're seeing a nice magenta color, a true magenta with a dark center. What's hard to see for scale in this image is that these petunias are mini. They're only about 1 inch wide. Extremely small, but there's a whole lot of them. And this is one of the most popular plants ranked across trial gardens in the United States. So do look for it this upcoming spring. Calibrachoas or million bells, very small flowers, but lots of them. Calibrachoas really lend themselves to containers in elevated situations. They're not great in the ground because they tend to get a little waterlogged and despise heavier soils. So put them in your containers. Look for trailing or semi-trailing forms for baskets. This Cha-Cha Diva Hot Pink is excellent. And as you look at some of these Calibrachoas, look at the gradation of color from the outer petals all the way to the throat, which is a nice transition. Cha-Cha Tangerine, another great one. And orange in the garden can be a little tricky, but if you're into pastels, this salmon range, this tangerine coloration is wonderful. They are heavy feeders, so additional fertilization is warranted when you start to see foliage on Calibrachoas go yellow. And Frosty Lemon, another in this Cha-Cha series. There's only 3 plants in this basket, in this container, so you can see how they fill out. And they love the heat of summer. Remember my comments, though, about fertilizer. And adequate drainage becomes vital in any container for Calibrachoa. Annual phlox, Phlox drumundii. Annual phlox tend to be a little shorter lived in the garden. You rarely will see them blooming this strong through September. But what you get from late May all the way through August is heavy flower coverage, a light scent, which is nice, so some light fragrance. And the Giselle series is absolutely spectacular, and the red form is brand new as of last year. So do look for these. They're great in the garden, great for pollinators, and great in containers. And another Giselle selection, light pink, and notice the eye, the darker center. The flowers are only about 3/4 of an inch, but you get full coverage over the plant. Full sun for sure. And another full sun annual, verbenas, powerhouses for pollinators, heavy blooming. A little warning about verbenas: if you ever see something like this Firehouse Purple Fizz improved, certainly beautiful in terms of coloration, but any annual verbenas that start to flag or have trouble later in summer, don't be shy about cutting them back and applying some fertilizer. They'll fill out nicely and reward you with blooms all the way till frost. And flowering tobaccos, Nicotiana. This variety, hot chocolate, notice the chocolate brown center to this trumpet-shaped bloom, which is green on the actual throat. These have a light scent to them, which is nice, but also pollinator friendly. So a little subtle in coloration, but this is a brand new color range for flowering tobacco. Many of which come in whites and greens and purples. This hot chocolate I thought was exceptional in terms of a little more subtle coloration, but very interesting to see. I'm a huge fan of dahlias in our summer gardens, and particularly shorter forms with dark foliage. Dahlias run the gamut of heights and flower sizes and colors. This Deleigria orange bicolor has the benefit of not only luminescent orange blooms, but look at that black foliage. So here's a case where that foliage is wonderful and adds as a backstop for these bright colors. And the Deleigria series has a whole bunch of different other colors as well. Dahlias thrive in the heat of our summer and tend to perk up as we head towards fall for bloom. If you've grown dahlias, you know you can dig them and save them. There's ways of perpetuating your dahlias forever, so do a little more research on that. This is not my image. This was borrowed from All America Selections. This is a new Rudbeckia. This is an annual Gloriosa daisy, Amarilla Gold. And look at the great green center. That's a prominent cone is the term for it, but a deep gold petal arrangement. Great for pollinators and goes the distance in the heat of summers. And if you're into fragrance in the garden, heliotrope, it comes in white, also comes in a wide range of blues. I will say a lot of the blues don't have fragrance, so make sure you're getting a blue form that is fragrant. Sweet Heaven, in its namesake here, extremely fragrant. So that'll permeate the air with the scent of vanilla and is great in a container on the deck, the patio, the window box. Buy these as plants, as established plants, and you'll get more size through the heat of our summers. A huge fan of Angelonias, summer snapdragons, very upright in their flower arrangement. So what you see here are spires that have multiple orchid-like blooms. The Serenita series, wide range of colors in this series. Most Angelonias are in the 15 to 18 inch range, but in mass like this, they read very well in the landscape and very low maintenance. There are now trailing Angelonias, incidentally, that are nice for the basket. This would be one of my top 5 annuals, Angelonia in general. So seek these out. And a new salvia out on the market, annual salvia, white flame. So covered with these wands of white through the entire summer. And in terms of slam dunks for pollinators, if you want to see a lot of butterflies and bees, you've seen some zinnias already. That's a great start, but get into your salvias, whether they're perennials or annuals like white flame. Great in containers or in all sorts of bedding schemes. Another great salvia that's new on the market is this variety called Lancelot. And I have to admit, from a distance, when I first saw this, I wondered what it was, because the furry silver foliage is what really caught my eye, first of all. And as I got closer, I took a look, and another great non-hardy salvia that loves our heat of summer and ultimately will be a pollinator magnet, as mentioned earlier with the other salvias. Here's a close-up of those blooms. Salvia flower clusters, whether it's a perennial or an annual, are huge attractants for hummingbirds, butterflies, and bees. So they're slam dunks in a pollinator-friendly garden. Here's Salvia Lancelot used in a combination with some blue Angelonia and some dark elephant grasses in the back. But I think that silver foliage really blends in well with that composition. And celotias, what's interesting, if you recall my earlier comments about the fact that foliage can be a foil for the flowers, these brand new celotias, I'll show you 2 here. This variety, Soul Lizard Leaf, has the benefit of this glossy, dark foliage. So it looks great at the time of planting. As the heat of summer sets in, they start sending up these wonderful candelabra-like flower stalks. So the contribution of the plant is through the entire summer, and it gets darker with more sunlight, and the flowers are just spectacular. And those flowers will elongate. I'm a huge fan of celotias for their heat tolerance. And the other Soul variety, Gecko Green, you see here with a greenish maroon tint to the foliage and a lighter pink flower. These are called a type of wheat celotia, in that the flowers are reminiscent of the upright form of a wheat. And there's another shot of that Gecko Green. These have huge potential in the landscape, whether it's using them as individual elements in containers or in bedding schemes en masse. Another All-America Selection winner, new for this year, the Kilo series. There's many, many varieties, but this Candela Pink is truly amazing, simply because its flower power extends for over 4 months and even will take some light frost and still maintain some coloration. So in terms of having flower architecture that's upright and strict like this flower architecture really speaks in terms of kind of waving in the wind and offering some verticality in any combination in which it's placed. So sweet potato vines, many folks eat sweet potatoes, and this is actually a species. The species isn't edible, although these ornamental ones are not developed for flavor. But this is a new development. 3 years ago, these came out. These are actual climbing sweet potato vines. Most are ramblers. They tend to just sort of cascade along the ground and come in many colors. But the Solar Tower series, here you see both lime and black, work their way up these vining structures. So when you think of verticality in the garden, sometimes our plants are vertical. In other situations, we're providing vertical obstacles or built environments in which they can climb. And these are just wonderful, adding coloration. And another neat sweet potato, the Sweet Caroline Medusa Green. Very fine foliaged. And in terms of coloration, sweet potatoes, the ornamental forms run in all different colors of blacks, browns, near orange, getting close to red, and all the yellows and greens you can think of. So look into these as great plants coming over the edge of a container, or the vining forms that you saw earlier with the Solar Tower series. And focusing a little bit on foliage here, the copperleafs, the Acalyphas, this Inferno. Look at the gradation of colors, with the newest leaf being the bright burgundy, then aging to a green or an orange. Also love the heat of summer. You won't see these bloom in our climate. It's pretty rare, but their contribution of foliage in the full sun garden is amazing. And if you really like silver, this Senecio, donkey ears, very felty to the touch, offering a pure silver. And this is a great plant to include in children's gardens or along low walls or in containers where people can actually enjoy them in a tactile fashion. If you know the perennial lamb's ears, very similar in its touch, very felty. In this case, not hardy, but offering as close to a white in the landscape as you could have. And the coleus nowadays, Dragonheart, there's thousands of varieties of coleus. And over the last 20 years, there's been more and more developments in coleus that can take full blazing sun. And all coleus will have a little different coloration, the same variety, I mean, in terms of if they're getting more shade or more sun, you'll get some variability with the color, but it's all good. And Dragonheart here, showing some of this bright rose to pink venation on a golden leaf, is amazing. This is the same plant in shade, and this is what I mean by the variability. Still offering a lot of interest, but you lose a little bit of the gold that's brought out with full sun. And that's just something to know, but so many coleus grow wonderfully in our gardens. Do know what you're getting into in terms of height. Some can stay 8 to 10 inches, some will get 3 to 4 feet in our summers. And there's a huge mass of Dragonheart coleus there. And the Flamethrower series, here's Cajun Spice. If you look closely, the difference with coleus, initially you notice the coloration. You saw Dragonheart previously. The leaf color is what you grow them for. And incidentally, if your coleus ever bloom, they send out little blue flower spikes. Deadhead those, remove those, pinch them back. You want to encourage more foliage growth. But the nuances in foliage form, whether they're scallop leaves, ridged leaves, linear, rounded, are truly amazing. In this case, with the Flamethrower series, there tend to be smaller leaves. Cajun Spice has the benefit of this golden line edge to a maroon leaf. And here's a whole lot of Cajun Spice used as a bedding scheme in full sun. Most coleus will take full sun if given proper watering. And at the Ball Seed Trial Gardens in West Chicago, Illinois, here's a huge swath, a real river of Cajun Spice coleus working its way through here. The same plant combined with some begonias. I thought this was real neat. The dark of the begonia leaf, that glossiness, punctuates this combination of really only 2 types of plants, Cajun Spice coleus and this begonia, which is nice. And the Flamethrower series also includes Sriracha, which is a little darker center, also with that lime green edge. Many coleus you can only purchase as plants. They're vegetatively propagated, so they're created from rooted leaf cuttings or in a tissue culture lab. So you have to find the plants, but there are still an amazing amount of varieties that are offered as seed that you can grow on your own. And 2 other new ones I'd like to show, the Royale series. Here's Cherry Brandy. In full blazing sun, this dark maroon reads almost as a near black in full sun. And this will get beach ball size. This is one that's going to get pretty good size. So do know, again, the mature size of these plants, but they're not relegated to the shade anymore. That was 30, 40 years ago. Start bringing them out into the sun and let them do their thing. And Pineapple Brandy, here with a nice gold. The stems have interesting color. And I didn't allude to it earlier, but a lot of coleus have different coloration on the back side of the leaf. This will also be a large coleus. Developments in vegetables, they fall under seasonals. This could be a topic for another time, but what's amazing to me is the breeding, not only in disease resistance, but productivity. This Tidy Treats is a cherry tomato, heavy producing, early producing, and something that lends itself to a container application as well. Do look for varieties of compact vegetables in those that lend themselves to smaller spaces, because many folks are doing vegetables in their on their patios and their decks, and they don't have room for a full-size garden or a full-size vegetable plant, but there are breeding developments in so many of these compact forms. And this Dazzling Blue Kale, I'm a huge fan of kale, not only visually in the garden, but all its uses in the kitchen as a superfood. But look at the pure blue coloration of these dimpled leaves. And this is something, this kale, you could be cutting back on through the season, still offering beauty well into the fall, but it could have been productive and brought into the kitchen throughout the season. And I'm showing you a basil. This is a sweet basil, and it looks like any other sweet basil that's out there, but the Rutgers University has developed some amazing mildew-resistant basils. There's a lot of fungal diseases of basils out in the landscape. If you see your basil wilt and die in July or August, it's usually some sort of disease. But developments in disease resistance for these is really amazing, and this is one of many that are out there. And you think about fresh basil from the garden, the benefits of having our produce right outside the back door for convenience, food safety issues, of course, and the disease resistance, as alluded to here, I think is worthy of note. As we get into more shade, we can lean on begonias. They're not drought tolerant. In this case, this trailing begonia in a basket needs ample water and good drainage, but the breeding in begonias is amazing, and many of the trailing forms are quite sun tolerant, so do keep that in mind as you explore these opportunities. Spring Fling Buttercup, another great variety. There's a whole range of reds, oranges, and do visit your local garden centers and nurseries come spring, because they should have a wide range of these wonderful begonias out for sale and for many applications. As you get into more shade, the Rex begonias, you saw one earlier in the presentation. Look at this Jurassic Junior, purple speck, white speckled, a hint of rose to it, and notice the venation. Rex begonias like the moisture, but they need perfect drainage. And it's rare to see these bloom for us. Our interest is in these large subtropical leaves offering color. And another new one in this Jurassic Junior series, Rose Splash. There are literally thousands of varieties of Rex begonias, and they're becoming more available for the consumer. And there are ways of bringing these into the house as a house plant and perpetuating for the next year, so do keep that in mind. And while not a new begonia, I'm a huge fan of this golden foliage canary wings. It doesn't like full sun, where it gets burned up and turns brown, and it doesn't like deep shade, where it reads as a green. So with some degree of dappled light or indirect light, canary wings offers a lot of gold and a lot of flower power. Here in a little more light, combined with some of the Rex begonias we just looked at, that bright yellow foliage, that's canary wings begonia, and look at all the bright reddish-orange blooms. That gold really speaks. And to the earlier comments about foliage and flower on the same plant, if you can get double impact, that's the way to go with any type of plant. And for years now, we've been a little wary of growing standard impatiens. Impatiens downy mildew has been a huge problem throughout a good portion of the eastern and Midwest United States, where many traditional impatiens will just catch this mildew and die within days. Beacon Orange, the Beacon series, is mildew resistant and has shown great promise and is becoming more prevalent out on the market. There's 7 colors now. Beacon Orange is one of the 7, and I would recommend trying these. I've experimented with these in areas where mildew has been present and traditional impatiens have died, and the Beacon series seems to have very strong resistance and makes it through. So here's a case where breeding has brought these back to the forefront. Here's a whole bunch of Beacon impatiens on a shady planter at a trial garden, but you can look at some of the coloration there with violet and white and orange and pink. And here's the Beacon series in a mix in a shady situation. I have to admit, my time at Rotary Botanical Gardens as Director of Horticulture, we stopped planting standard impatiens for almost 7 years because of the mildew. I'm pretty sure the Beacon series will offer a lot of interest. This Aymara series is very similar in that it's also mildew resistant. So you see XDR rose, there's I believe 5 colors in this series. The general comment about standard impatiens is they're back, folks, so do look for the Aymara or the Beacon series. And here's Orange Star in that Aymara series. Close-up of the blooms, but a beautiful plant for the shade. After my 21 years at Rotary Botanical Gardens, I left last fall to start my own business, and here's just a little bit of what I'm doing. Do feel free to reach out at any point with questions and contact me. I've been enjoying exploring some of the opportunities with helping people with their landscapes. Interesting fact I just read was COVID created 25 million new gardeners this year. And ultimately, the hope is those gardeners will continue into the future, particularly kids. Let's get them involved, folks. As we finish up, I do want to say thank you. Here's a little bit of kale mixed in with some other plants. Keep in mind, as we get through a tough winter, both in terms of weather and all the other things going on in the world, our gardens are a respite of color, of peace, And I think it's so important to reconnect with the land. And we have the opportunity to grow so many wonderful plants in our landscape. Seasonals being a nice opportunity, whether it's vegetables or annuals that you've seen today. But let's bring more color into everyone's lives and try to create more gardeners. Thank you for viewing this presentation today, and have a great 2021.
Hi, I'm Ben Fuda, host of PBS Wisconsin's online gardening series, Let's Grow Stuff. Well, we just finished learning about sensational seasonal plants, and Mark is now joining us live to answer the questions that you've been sending in during the presentation. As a reminder, this presentation is recorded, so you can go back and view it anytime at wisconsingardenexpo.com/schedule, the PBS Wisconsin Facebook page, or the YouTube channel. And so if you need to reference any names or facts we go over, you can always look there. So Mark, thanks so much for joining us today, and we're just going to go ahead and jump right in.
Okay.
So we're going to kick off with a question from Julie, and Julie is wondering any tips or resources you could point us toward in terms of how to look at plants by their characteristics. So if she's looking for something that's deer resistant, shade loving, things like that.
Well, it's a little challenging because some of that will be regionally based if you're talking about perennials and woody plants. But in terms of annuals, a good old-fashioned internet search with those criteria, whether it's fragrance or ornamental edibles or something of that nature, you'll be able to track down some of those features. But offhand, I can't mention something very specific that's applicable for everyone. But the research is out there, and I like to lean on a lot of university trials as well, whether it's the University of Georgia, Colorado State, there's some Ohio State, some wonderful trialing, particularly of annual plants, and that information is available online as well.
And speaking personally, I've gardened in a couple of states now, and it just depends on the critter. Their tastes change if you're looking for disease or pest resistance. So Lynn is wondering, do you know of a fragrant petunia that you might recommend, a specific variety?
Well, sure. There's most people don't realize that there are fragrant petunias, and a lot of that scent is emitted in the evening, but there's quite a few old-fashioned varieties. I know there's one called Rainmaster, which is an old variety that has some fragrance. There's also a new All-America selection winner called Evening Sensation, and it's a beautiful kind of luminescent lavender, and just gorgeous in a basket. I will say the Source Select Seeds, you can buy both seed and plants, is a wonderful online resource, and they have a huge Select Seeds. They have a huge assortment of fragrant plants, and that includes many of the old-fashioned fragrant petunias as well, from seed.
Excellent. And Joanne is wondering, how can we prevent bugs from eating our sweet potato vines? Is there any treatments or things you might recommend to keep the critters away?
Well, not really. I mean, there are certainly chemicals that will take care of that, but I'm wary of any sort of chemical use in the garden. And when you think of the sweet potato vines, you're not cultivating those for culinary use, as was alluded to. They're not bred for taste. So if you have a heavy year of Japanese beetles, they're prone to doing a little nibbling. And folks saw that those vining structures with the Solar Tower series, they're twining now, which is awesome. That's just a ladder for woodchucks too, because woodchucks absolutely love sweet potato vines as well. So I'm wary of recommending any sort of chemical use. You just kind of hope for a year where it's not as prevalent, or you're hand picking, or just kind of keeping an eye on it. The good thing is any sort of damage on a sweet potato vine is mitigated by a quick snip. Remove anything that looks unsightly, and they regenerate immediately and can take benign neglect and respond well.
Benign neglect sounds like my kind of plant. I love it. So sweet potato vines are popular. We have another question from Billy from Chippewa Falls, who's asking, they found bulbs from last year's potato vines in their container. Will those, if they planted them, will those come up in spring, like a traditional bulb?
They will. And if you've ever dug, processed, and stored dahlias or cannas, it's a very similar treatment. So, for instance, if you're emptying your fall containers and you had sweet potato vine and you find that tuber, you find that swollen root structure, you can rinse that off. You can actually store it dormant as you would your dahlias and cannas, 55 to 60 degrees in a cool, dark spot. And you can absolutely replant that. So you can perpetuate your sweet potato vines They're not hard to root either, but ultimately it's a matter of having the right conditions for that winter storage and promptly getting them out and growing as you get towards June. You don't want to really plant those until soil starts warming.
So Mary was wondering the trial garden that you mentioned. I think was it Ball Horticulture. She's wondering where that is specifically, and might that be open to visitors? Is that someplace that anyone could visit?
Great question. So it goes by many names. It's the Trial Garden at Ball, or the Gardens at Ball. And Ball Seed, being the biggest horticultural company in the world, their headquarters is in West Chicago, Illinois, so a western suburb. And so for Madison, only maybe 2 hours from Madison. So COVID has affected, obviously, the ability to visit. But every year they have industry days, which is when I usually attend. But you can call and try to make arrangements to visit the gardens. And my understanding, this question 15 years ago would have been a different answer, and the public was normally not allowed to visit. But they become a lot more open to having visitation. But I would simply make a phone call, understanding that this year COVID may also impact the ability of people to visit, but it is absolutely amazing. Everything's labeled, of course. I spent about 4 hours there with my camera, and I'm not even getting through it, but just make that phone call and check.
Excellent. So Lori, very savvy viewer, noted you alluded earlier that you have one plant was one of your top 5 annuals. Would you care to share all 5?
Oh boy, well, that's kind of putting me on the spot. I think I mentioned Angeloni as being a top 5, summer snapdragon. So I've got to say I've come full circle to zinnias in general, and primarily for the pollinator value. They're just unbelievable. And, again, folks saw a lot of new annuals, but new doesn't always mean good, and good isn't always new, and I've said that for years. And so I'm kind of leaning back into just some of the old-fashioned cottage garden annuals and getting into zinnias and some fun cosmos. Love nasturtiums. That's not really answering the top 5 because I'm not being super specific, but Angeloni is still in there. But at Rotary Gardens, we used to grow 900 varieties a year, and it was, admittedly, there were a lot of great ones, and there were some ones that weren't good that visitors would never see again. So it was a little kind of trial on the run. But people should plant, grow, and explore and see what they like. It's a bit of a subjective assessment.
So Anna's wondering if you have any thoughts for how to keep critters out of containers. She said, I've tried everything from sprays to upside-down plastic forks, and nothing seems to stop them digging. Any thoughts or any ideas?
Yeah, something that works, and we've actually applied this to bulb planting, and I'll just circle back to that. But the product Milorganite, which is a very light fertilizer originally from the Milwaukee Sewage District. It's got an interesting history, but Milorganite as a light fertilizer, lightly sprinkled in a container, the scent keeps primarily squirrels and rodents from doing immediate digging because they can smell it for weeks. It's pretty stinky for humans for a couple days. The reason I mention it for bulb planting is we put Milorganite in the bottom of every hole for every bulb. And then once those bulbs were covered, and that's our tulips, daffodils, etc., once the soil was covered over those holes, we sprinkled Milorganite over the top for the same reasons. Not only it being a light fertilizer, but that scent kept curious squirrels from digging immediately. So lean on Milorganite, a light sprinkling of that, and consider like crushed red hot peppers. Tends to keep critters away for a certain amount of time, but we all know there's nothing that's entirely critter proof, and Mother Nature with rain and wind and such will compromise some of those protections. But give those avenues a whirl.
So Natasha is wondering, of the plants you've mentioned, are these things that people can expect to see in their local greenhouses and nurseries this year? And you mentioned an online retailer as well, but are these things that we can expect to see soon, or are they maybe still a year or two out from sort of the wider retail areas?
Great question. Of course, that's dependent on the plants themselves. So the real challenge when you consider the definition of new might be something that's came out a couple years ago and is finally reaching the Midwest. So it's tough to speculate on supply. And so inevitably, some of the things that we're seeing today will be hard to find. Having said that, there's usually some sort of mail order source for plants, but you're paying an arm and a leg for shipping and that sort of thing. But I would encourage people to do an internet search and type in the Latin name of the plant and source, and you typically can find who's carrying it. But always patronize your local garden centers and nurseries, and don't be hesitant in March and April to give a call and say, hey, are you carrying such and such? Because they already know, hopefully, what they'll have. But as we know, COVID created a busy year of gardening last year, which was good, and it'll be a very busy this year. So it'll be a lot of competition to find these plants. But inevitably, the short answer to that is some of these things won't come down the pipeline for us for a couple of years.
And that's always been my recommendation as well. Call and ask. If garden centers are getting a lot of calls for specific plants, they will do their best to find them for us, which is wonderful. So Teresa's wondering, she noted, certainly know what to look for with the impatiens issues, but she said if she's had an issue with that sort of impatiens in the past, how long should she wait before she plants any again?
Well, that's a great question. Now, if there weren't the mildew-resistant impatiens, the Beacon and the Aymara series, I would say don't plant standard impatiens in that spot for years, 5 to 7 years. The worry is perpetuation of the fungal spores, and I have to admit I don't understand the biology of all of it. But in essence, at Rotary Gardens, when we lost 40,000 impatiens in 5 days, when the mildew went through, we didn't plant those spots with impatiens for years and years. So your best bet, even if you're getting the Beacon series and the Aymara series, is to pick a new spot or put them in containers. If your problems were recent, if your problems were many years ago, I would try it, because they've been inoculating these disease-resistant plants and found they're extremely resistant. And that doesn't mean disease-proof, but they really have sailed through some of the mildew issues. So again, it's a matter of the timing. But if you have space elsewhere, try it in a different space for a year or two, and then rotate back.
And so on that similar theme, again, some similar things coming in. Jody is wondering, if we're growing phlox, they tend to be prone to powdery mildew. Any tips or suggestions for how to sort of preemptively keep that away? Anything we can do in advance?
Well, keep in mind, mildew issues are prevalent, and for most of our state, probably most of the viewers, we've had abnormally cool and wet summers, which has led to a prevalence of mildew on woody plants, perennials. You think of mildew-resistant garden phlox and monardas, and you think of the annuals, the annual phlox, and some of the others that would get mildew. That was really inevitable, despite them having some disease resistance. So the best thing is you hope really for a hotter, drier year. You want good air circulation between your plants. There are certainly many fungicides that will knock back powdery mildew. I tend to look at it as more of a cosmetic thing, to be honest, because it shouldn't affect the blooms. So you'll still get a lot of that flower power, but hope for whatever an average year is. And I just as soon see some dry days in the 90s and not so much darn rain. So I will say those annual phlox tend to be fairly mildew resistant as well, but air circulation is vital for everything I've mentioned.
So Pam is wondering, she's looking for a true yellow flower for sort of a partial shade condition. Her true wish would be a true yellow petunia, but any sort of bright yellow, bright colors for those partial shade areas?
Well, good question. And I play devil's advocate when I hear that, because I think, what does partial shade mean? Is that, dappled sun in the afternoon or high sort of indirect light? So getting yellow blooms in the shade is challenging. There are some perennials that'll do it. There is a nice impatiens called Jungle Gold, which is in the orangey yellow range, that'll take quite a bit of shade and still bloom. Yellow in the shade that we used to do at Rotary Gardens, we would order hundreds and hundreds of ornamental shamrock, an oxalis called Molten Lava. And Molten Lava has golden foliage and little 3-leaf clover type approach, and is quite beautiful. So I would encourage her to, part shade becomes challenging for all the yellow flowers on things that really need full sun. So I guess what I'm getting at is maybe rely on foliage. Look for some bright gold. Like that canary wing begonia or some of the other golden foliage plants.
So we have a couple questions coming in related to sort of seasonal tubers, bulbs, things like that. A couple of folks wondering, they have cannas that they dug up and stored last year, and sort of the same for dahlias. When should they start those indoors or plant them directly outdoors? And if they do start indoors, when is the best time to do that?
Sure. Well, you can do either. And to my earlier comment, keep in mind soil temperatures really need to be above 70 degrees for things to take off. So the danger is getting lulled into a sense of security with a warm couple days in May where you're like, I'm going to put those cannas out. It's it's definitely too cool to do that. So if you're going to direct plant dahlias or cannas into the soil, I wouldn't do it till June. However, what we did at Rotary in April is we would pot them up in advance. Keeping in mind they don't need any light yet till they sprout. So we would pot them up in advance, put them on heat mats, keep them at 70 degrees plus. So by the time we took them out in late May, early June, they already had some decent growth on them. So it's not too early to check those bulbs to see if there's any rot and just sort of make sure they're good to go. And you can separate your dahlias, your cannas, get them ready to rock and roll. The benefit to starting them early is you can gain weeks and even a month of growth and have them up blooming sooner than the direct planting. Because the real danger, I'm rambling here, but the danger is if you direct plant and we just have a super cool, damp summer again, you're not going to see a lot of action till August or September, really. So get an early jump, and you can start that, I would do early April, late March, early April.
Excellent.
And be ready to rock and roll.
Perfect. So Victor is wondering, of the plants you recommend or sort of looking at right now, is there anything you could recommend as a ground cover in a shady spot, so a fully shady spot under some trees?
And is this, are we on the topic of annuals? Or
I believe so,
wonder
yep.
if his question. Okay. Yeah, that becomes a little challenging. So I've mentioned the ornamental shamrocks that do quite well. I mentioned molten lava. There's a couple of maroon ones, charm wine and charm velvet, although they'll also do well in full sun. So I can't think of what would be termed a traditional running annual ground cover, meaning a mat former. What I would do is get a whole lot of something and pack it in there and put a whole bunch of them together so they form a collective ground cover. There's a really shade-tolerant annual called Brazilian Fireworks. If they look up Brazilian Fireworks, it has a very interesting leaf, very interesting flower, takes a whole lot of shade. It's not extremely tall. It sounds like you probably want something that's on the shorter range of things, but again, that becomes a little challenging. So find a collective approach. And incidentally, there's a whole slew of shade-tolerant perennial ground covers. The issue with every one of them is that you have to dictate their spread because they will keep going. So you need to know what they're going to do.
So Helen from Facebook is wondering about getting started with growing. So is this time of year, mid-February, do we still have time to start things indoors from seed, or is it better to wait till we can get transplants at our local nurseries and garden centers at this point?
Well, we're all starved for spring. We want to jump into it. And actually, it's a little bit early to start seeds, because the real danger, even if you have a light table that you can adjust so your seedlings are kind of pampered, they're going to get stretchy and leggy if you start them now. So you really want to wait till about 6 weeks before the last frost date. I'm talking like early April. And this will fluctuate depending on where you live, your latitude and all that. But it's a little early to start seeds at this point. So greenhouses are doing it, and they have different ways of getting plants ready to go. But do a little more research on seed starting times, which is all on the internet for all sorts of plants based on your region. But it's certainly not too early to order seeds. In fact, get on it, because seed ordering is for the second year is going bonkers, which is good, but supply will be compromised. And certainly buying plants from your local garden centers is a great way to support the local economy. But making the phone call, you and I mentioned it, Ben, the idea of calling your local vendors and saying, hey, what do you have? It's not unrealistic to know that answer now.
Perfect. And then another question from Jody. Begonias, will they grow in clay soil? Well,
and I hesitate, because begonias in clay, the challenge is not having the drainage. So the clay maintaining a lot of moisture. Now, begonias are not drought tolerant. They need adequate moisture, but clay is the kiss of death for those Rex begonias that you saw. Those really need really good, well-drained soil. And if you were going to grow begonias in a clay soil, I would lean on some of these super tough series, and I'm going to rattle off 4 names, and they're hybrid begonias. They all get 18, 24 inches or so. There's the Big series, Whopper series, Megawatt, and Viking. So Big, Whopper, Megawatt, Viking, they all have different colors of foliage and a flower range of pinks, whites, roses, and reds. I digress, but these are super tough and can take a wide range of soils. But if it ends up being kind of standing water or a low spot with clay, they will rot out by midsummer. So change the soil or change the location, but those 4 series of begonias are the toughest.
So Chris is wondering, you mentioned the bulbs needing 70-degree soil to go outdoors and to really do well, and they're wondering, is that the same for annuals? Is there a soil temperature we should be looking for herbaceous annuals as well?
I would say yes, because we've all done this. The danger is it's Mother's Day, right? And we go get Mama geranium or some zinnias, and everyone's, again, throwing elbows at the garden centers. It's one of their busiest sale days. And we run the risk, once we put those plants out in May, is soil temperature still quite cool. We're still getting evening temperatures in the upper 40s and 50s, so it's not conducive to those plants thriving. So the danger is them not only not thriving, but rotting out or something like that. At Rotary Gardens, we barely put annuals into the ground till June. And that's southern Wisconsin and Janesville. Our intent was letting the soil warm up. We gave time for our bulbs to start going dormant so we could clear those out. And don't try to keep up with the Joneses by the earliest planting of your annuals. If you have them and you purchase them, keep them safe, rotate them in and out of the garage if there's frost warnings, get your supply, but don't be in a huge hurry to plant them out unless you know you're going to have a nice stretch of nice warm weather and that soil is not overly cool.
Well, a quick comment from Rita. She wanted to give a shout out that she loves your mom's quilt behind you, and quilting and gardening go together the best, so she wanted to give you a shout out for that. And then Rosemary's asking, anything new in Cosmos? She just discovered chocolate Cosmos, but anything in the Cosmos range to look out for?
Yeah, well, everyone should know about the chocolate Cosmos. Incidentally, actually forms a tuberous bulb you can store, which is cool, and has the fragrance of dark chocolate. It's just beautiful. I would look into the Cupcakes series of Cosmos, because when you think of Cosmos as a composite, the different petals, and they come in whites, pinks, there's sulfur Cosmos in reds, yellows, oranges, but the Cupcakes series, there's Cupcakes pink, blush, and white. The petals are fused. It looks like I can't think of the word, but the paper cupcake holder, it's a fused petal. It's like a saucer. So Cupcakes Cosmos are just unbelievable. So look into those, and that Select Seeds I mentioned earlier has a huge range of Cosmos, including double forms and a whole bunch of pink and really near red Cosmos, standard Cosmos, which is cool.
So we still have a ton of really amazing questions coming in, but we are starting to enter our final stretch here. And so, Mark, if people have questions for you, remind us again where they can reach out or where they can find you.
Sure. The best bet is to email me directly, and I'd be glad to answer your questions. And that's at mcdwyer@zoho.com. So mcdwyer@zoho.com.
Excellent. And so a couple of questions as again, we wrap up here. Where do these new plants come from? So all of these new introductions, so what does that process look like? So what do either plant breeders look for? Are these things that people are intentionally breeding? Are they happen naturally? What does the pipeline sort of look like behind the scenes before we see them in a garden center?
It's a great question, and it's so elaborate I don't think I could even begin to describe it or personally understand it. But what's real interesting is the breeding is becoming so strong not only for developments in more compact forms of all sorts of plants, because it lends itself to some of our smaller landscapes. That's really in relation to woody plants and perennials. But with annuals, the breeding in Europe, Asia, Israel, South America, there's an unbelievable amount of things going on, and so much is coming on the market. And what's interesting with new plants is I started a list of new plants, relatively new plants that I was unfamiliar with, and I'm on 20 pages. I mean, I've put 600 things down, and it's hard to sift through all that, but the behind the scenes is so elaborate, and ultimately the end game, of course, is a quality product that thrives in our gardens. But to my earlier comment, new isn't always good. So do a little research and make sure that your new plants are good and have some trialing backing to them.
And I think our final question today that we have time for, again, we've talked a lot about sourcing, supporting local garden centers, nurseries. You mentioned Select Seeds as an online retailer as well. Any other mail order retailers that maybe people could look out for or places you've enjoyed?
Sure. Well, when you think of mail order, there's certainly a wide range of seed companies for annuals. When you get into like Stokes Seeds, Johnny's, Pine Tree, it goes on. And of course, there's wonderful vegetable sources as well. Seed Savers Exchange, Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. Annie's Annuals, and I believe she's out in California, grows some crazy stuff. And Annie's Annuals, get on their little link for their newsletters. You'll see some insane stuff. But many of the vendors I just mentioned also sell some plants of these different types of annuals. Jung Seeds, our own Jung's, has a wonderful catalog as well. So there's no shortage of sources, but there may be a shortage of plant material if it's another strong year. So start sniffing around, folks.
Yeah, take-home message, do not delay. So, well, Mark, thank you so much again for joining us today, for sharing your time and your expertise. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.
Everyone, do stay tuned. And as a reminder, this presentation has been recorded and will be available online on Facebook, YouTube, and wisconsingardenexpo.com/schedule. So you can go back and reference anything you might have missed or go have those questions revisited. Please stay with us.